fact, Dr. Kudlu has been responsible for me to start Smile about 4 or 5 years back. And I was lucky to learn my first steps from him, Dr. Rupal, and a few other of my colleagues and friends. So, and learning the right way is, of course, very, very important. So perfecting your smile, I'll try to give you some of the pearls which I've picked up on the way and try to share them with you. So most important thing is that for those who are planning to start Smile, I think it's a good idea to graduate from PRK or LASIK or femtoLASIK, because that sets you up for doing Smile. I have seen some people, who started first thing with a Visumax. They did not have an excimer. I don't think that's a great idea, because to be complete, you should have a decent existing refractive surgery volume, because Smile being very expensive, it may be difficult to break even. And also, as far as the technique goes, it does have a small learning curve, which you need to be, if you're good with femtoLASIK, it always helps. So Visumax alone may not be sufficient for a complete refractive surgery practice, and you may need for a few of the things, just like we just spoke about hyperopia, high astigmatism, maybe customized laser corrections. It might still be required to have an excimer for now. I think the future holds much more this thing once we have hyperopia with us. So the Visumax is a wonderful machine. It makes excellent flaps as well, and of course does lots of other corneal procedures. And most importantly, it does for you a Smile procedure. But as I said, that we might still need an excimer. In my practice, about 60 to 70% patients are very good candidates for Smile, or even more, sometimes 80%. And then there are always those 10 to 20, because I also like to do surface ablations and I like to do occasional femtoLASIK as well. So the learning curve has been spoken about, and it's definitely much easier for those experienced with femtoLASIK. And I think you have to be patient, and in the first 100 eyes, you have to take it easy to start getting consistent results, because that's the time when the machine is growing on you, and you tend to understand the energies of the machine, and your dissection techniques are improving. The tissue handling is very, very important, because that is what gives rise to delayed visual recoveries. And with experience and less handling, faster procedure times, and better patient comfort, the first day wow factor starts coming out very soon. And as Dr. Rupal went through the history, I will not go through that. The first generation machines, people used to scare me when I was going to buy the Visumax, but I think all those fears are totally unfounded. The current generation machines are way ahead, and the Visumax has very good energy setting tweaks with minimal OBL, very good dissection ease, very good refractive results, and a wonderful wow factor. So I think for Smile, I think the case selection, especially in the first few days, is very, very important. And that's the key to success with Smile. And during the learning curve, it's good to avoid very low and very high corrections. So initially, I learned that, because the lenticle thickness will be very thin, and also maybe the refractive outcomes were not as perfect in the very small corrections. So I avoid doing lenticules thinner than 40 microns, because you tend to have difficulty with dissection, and you can have a retained or a left behind lenticule. And very high corrections as well, if you're planning to start -10s and all right in the beginning, may not be a great idea, because you need to tweak your nomograms as well. And I would initially avoid astigmatism over 1.5 to 2 diopters. Of course, today I'm doing corrections of 3 to 4 diopters as well, because you gradually learn how to tackle those. And gradually one can increase the range of treatments, and of course later on the full capabilities of the machine can be used. In fact, it's wonderful to even make flaps which are super thin. So if you're doing corneas which are borderline and you want to have maximum amount of stroma to ablate, you can make flaps of even 80 to 90 microns. Of course, that requires experience. Again, I think preoperative evaluation, it's the same as LASIK or PRK. And good topography. This is what we do, but of course, every clinic would have their own nomograms. We do epithelium mapping, we do an eye trace and a dry eye workup, and always a retina exam. And our exclusion criteria would be the same as LASIK. Now, this is very, very important for everybody to understand. Many people initially thought that with Smile, you can get away with good biomechanics and start doing corneas which may be suspect or thinner. I don't think that's great at all. I use exactly the same criteria for excluding patients for Smile as would be with LASIK. And the last and most important thing, very good counseling and chair time with the patient is very, very important. Today, this is how, this is a little bit in fast forward, of course. And a good Smile procedure would be, I think Sonu has already shown how it would happen. I don't have to repeat it, but this was one of my patients who operated few weeks back. I would dissect the deeper plane first. So I don't like to hold the eye with any kind of instrument. I like to let the patient fixate. Of course, initially he may find it difficult because of the OBL, but and yes, it does look violent right now because it's a little bit in fast forward. But usually the patients are very comfortable when you're not kind of trying to hold their conjunctiva, and you don't see any spots next to either. And then the deeper plane can be dissected. And then, of course, just like Sonu did on the left side, I'll leave a small island which I'll break last. And while I prefer to do hydroexpression, but often nowadays I tend to just deliver the flap like the lenticule like that. And then I like to watch the interface because some surgeons don't like to. It's your choice. So going on, I think why we came to that hydroexpression is because sometimes with forceps there are 2-3 things that can happen. If you have to do a kind of dissection to remove the lenticule which has not been fully detached on the sides, or if you have a very small, so beginning you should never go for the 2 mm smile. Start with maybe 3.5 mm or something, and then gradually as you become very experienced you can come to smaller incisions. There is no heroism in going with a very, very small side cut in that sense. And you can end up with a lenticule with a cap tear. I had to borrow this video from one of my colleagues, very old video, yet it delivers the message that forceps and the quality of forceps, and in fact, I would like to show you here that many times it's this point on the forceps which can actually catch hold of the, cap, and it can cause a tear because it'll just, as you open and close the forceps, it can just catch hold of the lip of the smile wound, and that can cause all these complications. So this brought me to innovate and start doing hydroexpressions. I'll take you to the last part of the surgery. Once the dissection is complete, you can just go with the lenticule is fully dissected now, and you can just go inside with a gush. This is a specially designed hydroexpression cannula which I've designed, which the shape is peculiar to the eye. And you can just with a small gush deliver the lenticule. It comes out really well. And some cases where the lenticule may remain attached at some points, again, it's very beneficial. You'll see here that as I do the hydroexpression, if you've had some small island of connection still remain, you can still do a much better job than you would do with the forceps or with any other technique that you use. So here we still don't know whether my lenticule is free, but as I put a gush of fluid, the most of the lenticule comes out. A small island here, but all I have to do now is hold this small projecting part of the lenticule and just nudge on it, and it'll come out. So it also defines where the connections remain, because most of the thing will prolapse and it'll come out. Dr. Kulu, I don't see a timer, so I don't know how much time I have left, but if you'll tell me.
You're exactly in time.
Okay, so I'm almost done. I'll just go to one last video and then I'll be done. Sometimes there are patients who have very obese and they have eye movements, and with their breathing movements, their anxiety, their heart rates may be very fast. You can see in this patient that as I just engage the suction, and the patient is having significant, in fact, it was right in the beginning where the patient, as I'm even fixating, you can see those movements of the patient. So very heavy patients, you have to be careful. And also some patients who are very anxious. Now there's a second patient here, which again, we are doing this, and some of these patients who are very anxious and they're having a strong bells, they may move like that. And then when during the cut, when you're having the cap cut and the deeper cut, you can have more movements, and that can cause lots of complications. So most important thing is to keep talking to the patient. And with that, I think I'll stop here. These videos are of no point. I'll just come to my last slide. So SMILE is a wonderful procedure with good case selection, very good chair time with the patient, good counseling, and building the right expectations, and perfecting your technique slow and steady. There's no point jumping into all kinds of heroics with SMILE right in from day one, and studying your results and modifying protocols, making nomograms for corrections. And with that, I think I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you. That was really a wonderful talk. And your hydroexpression, I think it works very well.